Hi, I'm Gene Kelly, President of the American Gunsmithing Institute, and one of the most common questions that I get asked all the time is, don't I need a lot of expensive tools to be gunsmithing, or what kind of tools do I need? So I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what you really need for gunsmithing, and you might be quite surprised it's not as expensive and there aren't as many tools as you might think. Okay, well, let's take a look. The first thing you need is a set of hand tools, and tools that are specifically for your gunsmithing. So we have here a set of screwdrivers that are intended for gunsmithing. The blades are of various different thicknesses, and they are ground so that they'll fit the screws precisely, because when you're working on a firearm, you want to make sure that you're not using a tapered screwdriver where it could slip out when you put a little bit of torque on it and goes chattering across your finish. So good screwdrivers are needed. You also need a good set of pin punches. These are what you knock the pins out of the gun with, and they have to be long enough to go through the receiver and to be able to line up with parts on the other side. You want steel punches. You also want a set of brass punches. Now the brass will be no mar. As you tap in a pin and get it flush into the receiver, you're not going to accidentally damage the receiver because it's softer than the steel pins. You also want a lightweight ball-peen hammer, typically a 4-ounce ball-peen hammer, and then a no-mar brass punch, so that, a brass hammer. Now, this set is really all you need for basic taking apart, putting together firearms, although I'm going to show you a lot of other little hand tools and some power tools that'll make the job a whole lot easier for you and enable you to just repair a whole variety of different problems. One of the things I'm going to be showing you is, well, as I show you this whole set, this is what we call our Enhanced Master Tool Set. With our American Gunsmithing Institute's professional gunsmithing course at the master level, you get all the instruction on how to do design, function, repair on firearms, a lot of different customizing techniques, machining information, welding information, a lot of different how-to information. But some of our students say, I want the tools as well. So we created an Enhanced Master Tool package, and that's what I'm going to be showing you. All the items that I'm going to show you today are included with the Master Enhanced package. Now, I have to say this, though. Over time, we might have to substitute one item for another. So, we're not locking everything in concrete, but what you're seeing conceptually is in every kit, and it's all that you need. You're not going to need a lot of exotic things beyond this until you get into some particular niches of customization or some sort of specialties. All right, well, let's get started. As you've seen, these are the basic hand tools you need to disassemble and reassemble the firearms. I also recommend that you have a block. This allows you to put the gun on the block and punch the pins through without damaging any parts. It's of a polymer type material. You could also have something made out of wood. I usually have several. All right, you also need a good vise. Now this is a Versa vise, or a Versa style vise, where the jaws are parallel. They're different than a regular vise. It's a gunsmithing style vise because the jaws are long and parallel and smooth, so you don't damage the finish of the firearm. Critical. Also a good anvil area so that you can peen parts, and the ability to turn it, and also this one will turn and lay on its side onto the pedestal. All good stuff. Definitely got to have a good vise for gunsmithing. Let me move these things. I'm going to show you some more things, parts that you'll need. You don't need to be too cautious with most of your tools. Obviously, you don't want to damage them, but they're not fragile. Okay, as far as, I'm going to show you some more hand tools, but first I want to show you the most important power tool that you'll have in your gunsmithing shop, and you will use it every day on almost every project. With this tool, you can make parts, you can alter parts, you can polish parts. It's phenomenal. And it's called a Fordham tool. This is a professional model. Here's the motor, and you typically have it hanging like this. There's your hand chuck. It has a flex drive shaft, And then this component is really critical, and it's what sets it apart from so many of just your Dremel style tools. So this is your foot rheostat. You normally have this on the ground, and as you press down with your foot, you can adjust the speed at different levels. And that allows you to control very carefully your polishing, grinding, or cutting. Now this is has a Jacobs chuck, and this is a little grinding drum that's on there now. Simply change it. All right, with the chuck key, you can put a cutting bit in, and these are like dental burrs almost. Most of them are high-speed steel, but you can get them in carbide. You can put cut-off discs in, polishing wheels, a whole variety of different cutting tools and polishing tools. This is something you will use all the time. In the professional gunsmithing course, in the Money Makers, we show you how to use these tools and many others, so you understand all the different applications of this. A must-have, okay? All right. Now, let's go through a few other tools, hand tools that you'll want. I like to have some various different angled tweezers, little tweezers. You want a couple of different angles and so on. We include a set with the Master Enhanced. You'll want some picks. Now these are handy for lifting up a spring, cleaning in a little corner of something. Just in general, these odd-shaped picks are very, very handy. Another type of pick are these nylon picks. And this allows you to go into different corners of the receiver or even on the exterior of the gun and not damage the finish. All right? Handy stuff to have. Now, hand tool-wise, you also want some different plier sets. This is a set of parallel pliers. All right, notice how the jaws work in parallel. If you need to grab a hold of a pin without marring it, this is the ticket. Another plier would be a bolt extractor or a compression type plier that you can compress a spring around a bolt for extractor removal. We recommend having a full set of pliers, and we include a full set of pliers with your gunsmithing course, because you're going to need needle nose and regular pliers and dikes or cutters and even channel locks for some work. So a set of pliers is what you need. Again, move this material off. Okay, other hand tools. You're going to need a set of Allen wrenches. The Allen wrenches come in a lot of different sizes. Some are going to be used for torquing down parts, such as your lug on a 1022 that holds a barrel. That would be for a bigger one. Smaller ones would be for setting trigger adjustments, scope mounts, etc. Cleaning material. You want a few different small brushes. We include a set of stainless, brass, and of nylon. Because you would want to use these in different conditions. A stainless, for example, when you're cleaning, say an area like where you're getting a lot of leading around a chamber with a handgun within the forcing cone area and so on. Other areas with the nylon so you don't scratch any of the finish. Additional hammers. This is a no-mar plastic hammer, and occasionally you need to give something a little bit of a attitude adjustment, and you want to make sure that using a no-mar type hammer, you're not going to damage the finish. This surprises a lot of people. You want to have a very lightweight hammer, something like this 2-ounce hammer. It allows you to not overwork a part and bend like a small pin, or possibly to even, if you were you need to stretch the gas ring on a cylinder, say a Smith & Wesson revolver cylinder, you want a lightweight hammer to do that. You need a set of needle nose type files, little needle files. Definitely have to have those for getting in tight places. An adjustable screw set, screwdriver set that has a lot of different little bits. It's amazing. It always seems like when you think you have everything, you'll come along with a different size screw head or adjustment tool that you'll need a different bit for. And you can even modify these to fit a particular screw head. Speaking of screws, I'm going to show you a couple things here to deal with screws. First off, this is a magnetic pan, and it'll keep you from losing parts all over the shop. Nothing worse than bumping over a pan. You're on your hands and knees trying looking for that pin or that screw. In addition, you oftentimes have to modify a screw, or if you're making a screw to fit something, it's oftentimes too long. This is called a screw gizzy. And what's neat about it is very simple, but it's a wonderful little tool. You put the screw in, side this, just moves like that, and you drop the screw in, put the other part behind it, and now you can hold it and grind the screw shorter or polish a screw if it's flipped around without burning your fingers and without zipping the thing and losing it and having it fly across the room, which is both embarrassing and frustrating. Now with screws, okay, so you've got a screw out of a gun, it's ruined, you need to find the right screw. How do you figure out which it is? A couple of different ways, and we include, again, all of this is included with your Master Enhanced course tool set. This is a thread gauge and a screw gauge, and it tells you what the size and thread pitch of all the most common gunsmithing screws are. So you just simply put the screw in, turn it, and if it threads properly, then you know that is the screw. That'll save you a lot of time. Another way to check is with a thread pitch gauge. Now you use the gauge to line up with the threads on a particular screw. So if I had to use one of these screws, I could take and I could put it against it until it lined up, and I'd know that that was the thread pitch. Awful handy stuff to have. One of the things I didn't show you with the Fordham tool that's also included is a whole set of polishing wheels, grinding stones, and cutoff bits, and what have you. So that supplements the Fordham tool. All right. When you're working on triggers, you'll need to, or some other surfaces as well, but triggers and sears particularly, you'll have to polish something. And so these are the polishing stones that are included with the Enhanced Master Toolkit. One's a fine and one's a medium. The other tools that I find that you just absolutely have to have these is a digital caliper. By having a digital dial caliper, you can quickly determine the dimensions of something, and it'll save you a lot of time if you're making a pin for replacement, or if you want to know, well, gee, I think that's a X size screw. You can look at, okay, that's 224 thousandths, and so on and so on. Must have, easy to read, easier than a dial indicator. I mean, dial calipers. The digital calipers are very, very handy. Let me move these, and I'm going to show you some more stuff. Okay, now, if you're going to be doing some additional gunsmithing, you're going to be setting up rifles for customers. You'll be probably sighting them in for them if you scope them. This is a laser sight-in system. Okay, it goes in the bore, and it'll rapidly help you get on paper in your shop before you take the rifle out to the range. When you're setting up a rifle, or a pistol for that matter, you need to make sure that the trigger weight is safe. Now, after a while, you get a pretty good feel for about how a trigger feels, weight-wise, but this digital trigger weight gauge, digital trigger gauge, really allows you to precisely know, and you can document that the gun went out with an X pound trigger. It's a good thing to do. Files. You got to have a good file set, and we include a complete file set with the course. You want small files, you want some round files, flat files. Even coarse wood files are handy to have for doing some roughing work, but a good set of files is necessary. Now, if you're going to do some woodworking, And we assume that as one of our students, one of our professional students, we show you how to do some basic checkering layout. And to practice that, we give you a set of checkering tools, and you can practice on some different wood before you get to the actual working on a $500 piece of wood. So we have that set up for you. In addition, you're going to run into situations where you need to tap a hole, something was broken, or you're making a tool, whatever you're needing to do. We can include a complete tap and die set. Oftentimes a bolt will be stripped, you'll have to make a bolt, and you can use this to thread it without having to use a lathe. When you're working in the shop, and you can see from this one I use it a lot, you want a place to hold your firearm securely without damaging it. So this fixture allows me to do exactly that. So I can work on the gun, mount the scope, clean it, and so on, without risking it being scratched or damaged. So we include one of those as well. Really handy device. And then now I'm going to start talking about some of the power tools that you need. People get really hung up about this. They think that they need a big mill, big lathe, just a big shop. And in reality, you can do all the gunsmithing you need to do in an area that's only like 8 by 10 or 10 by 10. Just a good bench with a good vise on it, your hand tools, your Fordham tool we talked about, some of these other hand tools, and then a couple of power tools. So I'm going to show you a couple of power tools that you really should have. All right. For example, a belt sander. Now, we include a belt sander with the Master Enhanced. Again, features will vary from time to time as different suppliers provide us with different product. But here's the general idea. You want a powered belt sander that you can fit parts on. Basically, you can polish springs, polish the part that you maybe roughed out of steel before you're heat treating it. The disc is nice to have for doing recoil pads, grinding the recoil pads, and so on. So that's a belt sander. That's one of the power tools you want to have in addition to your Fordham tool. Okay, a bench grinder. Well, probably most of you already have one, but if you don't, it's included with the Enhanced Master. And we also have a wire wheel that goes with it. Now, the reason you have a wire wheel is take off rust. I've used them, for example, recently I had a AKS rifle come in that had been fired so much with corrosive ammo that it was just a mess. Well, I broke it down, took out the piston, took out the bolt carrier, and was able to wire wheel them and bring them back to almost new condition just by knocking off the surface rust. Okay, now, what additional power tools? Well, here's another handy one. Something you may already have, but if you don't, you want to get, and that is a small bench-sized drill press. Could you use a larger drill press? Absolutely. But a small one is really handy to have as well. It fits the concept of the home gun shop where even as a professional you don't need a large shop, therefore you don't want to have massive tools beyond what you really need, because you can turn around and work in a fairly small space, which is efficient, and that's part of what we teach. We teach having everything within reach so that you can do your gunsmithing here, possibly have a bench behind you, turn and do your other work on the power tools, and back to where you're at without walking all over a large area. Some of the things you can do with the drill press, in addition to stock repairs, which surprises some people, drilling holes in a stock for epoxying and repairing pieces. You can polish screw heads that are damaged in it. You can even use it for retipping firing pins. Handy tool to have. Now, if you make parts, you're going to need to heat treat them. So one of the things we include with the Master, the Enhanced Master tool set, is a complete oxyacetylene rig, with the exception of we don't provide the oxygen or the acetylene. You want to get that at your local welding supply store. But here's everything you need to weld, gas weld, and to heat treat parts by carburizing and or oil hardening. again, all those processes are taught you in the professional gunsmithing course and the master gunsmithing course. All right. And then, okay, so everybody's like, wow, is that it? Well, there's one more thing that's nice to have. You don't have to have it. We include it with the Master Enhanced course, and that is a small bench lathe. The reason is a bench lathe of this size will surprisingly do most of what you need to do. I have literally set back thousands of pistol barrels on a lathe about this size. I've used lathe this size for making and retipping firing pins, for making pins, for altering screws. All of the different gun work that you do, particularly small internal parts, the only thing you won't be doing on stuff like that, on a lathe this size, is rebarreling rifles. It's not appropriate for that. However, it's also not a $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 lathe. I don't recommend that you go out and spend a lot of money on a lathe until you're ready for it. If you're getting into that area of specialization, you can do so. So we include a lathe of this size in your Enhanced Master toolkit, because this way you have everything you need, turnkey, to start gunsmithing right away with the knowledge we provide through our course. So really, you've seen pretty much all of it. That's what you need to get started. That's really, you can get going and be doing smithing on like 90% of the different jobs out there with just what you've seen. The only other tool that you might want to add at some point is a TIG welder. And we show you how to TIG weld in detail in our professional welding course, which is included in the master course. A TIG welder will run you $600 to maybe $1,000, maybe a little bit more, depending on how fancy a model you get, whether you get a used one or a new one. And you're not looking to do big welding projects. This is pretty small, so you can use a medium power TIG welder. And we do not include that with the Enhanced Master because most people won't be ready for it right away. Now, everything I showed you, you can go out and get yourself for probably about $2,000. So it is not that big a deal to get started in gunsmithing. You can see the kind of space you need, you see the basic tools you need. When you get there and you really need a specialty tool, you can go find that or make it. But this is it. This is what's included in our Enhanced Master toolkit, and we brought it all together for you to save you time and some money. So I strongly recommend get started in gunsmithing. There's a big need for gunsmiths out there. Study your professional course. We teach you all the design, function, repair. We show you how to do the customizing. We show you how to do the machining, the welding, all of it. We also provide you the tools if you invest in the Enhanced Master Gunsmithing Tool Package with the Master course. Well, hopefully that helped. I'm Gene Kelly. Thank you.